10 worst expat countries to live in the world in 2025 and why. Hello and welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. Here we go, sharing our take on the 10 worst countries to live in and why. Naming these countries in our top 10 worst countries list has nothing at all to do with the people. Most countries have friendly people, and in our 13 years living abroad, we have most of the time not experienced animosity with other citizens in any country that we have traveled to. We have gained much insight that is mostly hidden from view of the average wannabe traveler, and that's why we're sharing this information with you today. We've been saying for many years how countries are being negatively affected by internet promotion, and now you're starting to see its ugly side in the mainstream. It's an unfortunate thing, but there are good things to glean from it for everyone. We'll start with number 10 and work our way down to number 1. Ready, set, go. The top 10 worst countries to live in the world. Number 10, Thailand. If Americans say they have a difficult time adjusting to Latin America or Europe, then Asia will shock them. Asia is so overwhelmingly different than what you're used to that most Americans will have a difficult time adjusting to the exotic life. If you were to get culture shock living in a foreign country, it would happen much quicker in Thailand. Here's what some expats are saying. Many express dissatisfaction with Thailand due to cultural differences, challenges in adapting to local customs, and frustrations with issues like immigration and safety. Some also report negative experiences with other expats, which can contribute to a general sense of unhappiness among certain groups. By the way, the expats against other expat thing goes on in all countries where there are expat communities. If there's an expat community, there's conflict within that community. We'd see expats screaming at each other on the street in Ecuador on several occasions. One time I had my camera out and caught the spectacle right there on the street in Cuenca, Ecuador.
Fat boy.
Hey, you're gonna get your ass kicked.
I don't think so.
Call the national police and get you deported for what? Slander is a crime in Ecuador.
I happen to have my camera on when they're fighting.
Old gringos fighting. That's just hilarious.
There are many reasons why Thailand has turned the corner from once being a place to go get away from it all on just a few $100 a month to just plain too many reasons not to be there anymore. Well, there are a lot of sex workers and prostitutes in Thailand, and a single person and even couples can get hit up. This can happen anywhere and at any time, and even while you're enjoying a meal in a seemingly good area of town. This can be very off-putting. We have experienced this while vacationing in the Dominican Republic while dining out. Thailand is not a family-friendly place. It's illegal, but the Thai government looks the other way. It remains a significant presence in the country. Wherever there are tourists, there will be sex tourism of different degrees. While it is heavily promoted in Bangkok and Pattaya, it is not secluded to those areas either. This is one of those countries that looks postcard beautiful on the outside, but when you go inside, it's ugly. This is why Thailand is in our worst top 10 places rated. Why are expats leaving Thailand? Expats are leaving Thailand due to various factors including new tax regulations, visa issues, and rising living costs. Many feel that the changes in immigration policies and the overall cost of living have made it increasingly difficult to stay in the country. Moving on to number 9, Costa Rica. Costa Rica is probably the most overrated country in the world. People have been flocking to Costa Rica for over 50 years. And over those 50 years, the tourist inflation rate has skyrocketed out of this world, mostly in the last decade, though. Costa Rica has become one of the most overvalued countries, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. In fact, we said in one of our price bubble videos that Costa Rica is a perpetual tourist and expat attraction, and it's just for that reason alone that Costa Rica is on our list of worst countries to move to. Costa Rica is totally gentrified. Gentrification in Costa Rica refers to the process where wealthier foreigners move into local neighborhoods, driving up property prices and living costs, which often displaces the longtime residents. This phenomenon has sparked protests and debates about its impact on local communities, housing affordability, and access to resources like water. Why would expats leave this beautiful tropical country? Many Americans leave Costa Rica due to rising living costs, limited job opportunities for their children, and safety concerns related to increasing crime rates. The decision to leave is often based on personal circumstances and priorities. I think Costa Rica is a great place for enjoying a relaxing vacation on the beach, but we wouldn't want to live there permanently, and that is why we listed it here today in our top 10 worst countries to move to. Number 8, Panama. Panama is not far behind Costa Rica. For about 15 years now, Panama has been listed in the top 10 global best places rated list, just like Costa Rica, and both places are saturated with revolving door of tourism and expatism. It just doesn't end. The Panamanians are wonderful people, but most Latin Americans are. Panama being listed in our top 10 worst countries to live has to do with the retire abroad media doing the only thing they know how to do, naming Panama in the best place to live on their top 10 list for 15 years in a row, which has oversaturated the place with over-tourism, over-promotion, and we all know what that does, right? Some expats do leave Panama due to challenges like complicated bureaucracy, high costs in Panama City, and cultural differences that can be frustrating. Additionally, some find the pace of life just too slow or struggle with the language barrier. Panama is a wonderful place to go visit for a month and then come home, but it is the most expensive country in Latin America. Moving on to number 7, Mexico. Glorious Mexico. We just left Mexico 8 months ago after living in Baja for almost 3 years and living in Puerto Vallarta for several months. Mexico has taken a lot of tourism abuse over the years, and it's the number one hotspot for Americans and foreigners that live all over the world. Mexico's prices have skyrocketed since 2020. Gentrification is an issue in most good-sized cities and tourist areas now. You can't really get away from it. The areas in Mexico experiencing the most gentrification include neighborhoods in Mexico City such as La Roma, La Condesa, Polanco, and San Rafael, which have seen significant changes due to the influx of wealthier residents and rising property prices. Additionally, cities like Cordoba are also facing gentrification pressures, particularly in neighborhoods designated as magical towns to boost the tourism. Puerto Vallarta is also seeing major problems with not just prices, but foreigners trying to change the culture. That is another aspect of gentrification that rarely gets talked about. Throughout Mexico, there is a phenomenon happening, and this has been going on for years. It's just getting worse. We witnessed this firsthand when we were in Puerto Vallarta. Foreigners coming in and buying up million-dollar sea view properties in areas that have lack of good infrastructure, where the water goes out for days at a time, but only for the citizens, and filthy oceans where continual feces backwash runs into the oceans from the estuaries and rivers. But hey, look at those views, right? Wrong. And actually, in Puerto Vallarta, you can see the sludge running in the ocean almost every day. This is happening all over in Puerto Vallarta beaches and Nayarit beaches and also on Baja beaches that we know of. We witnessed it with our own eyes. We find this quite alarming and actually very disgusting. We had to quit going swimming when we were in Puerto Vallarta. And the Puerto Vallarta government is laughing at all the silly foreigners bragging about how the tourism is increasing while the feces count in the water is also increasing. And they literally say that in the same paragraph, letting you know how they feel about the foreigners. Polluted waters are almost everywhere we've been abroad, not just in Mexico, and even right here in the U.S. Our oceans, lakes, and rivers are polluted. That's the hard, cold reality. But the strange thing is, People are rushing to these tourist areas, buying up expensive properties to resell and make a profit off of other dubious foreigners that are not doing any research whatsoever. $1 million homes overlooking feces-infested waters. Yippee! Americans may leave Mexico for various reasons, including concerns about safety, rising living costs, or challenges in adapting to the local culture and language. Additionally, some may return to the U.S. for family ties or job opportunities that are more favorable. Wash, rinse, repeat. Are you seeing a pattern yet? Moving on to number 6, Italy. I'm afraid Italy is following in the footsteps of some of the other greedy European countries that are taking advantage of the rich foreigners that have money to invest that don't really know what to invest their money in. The property schemes even say they're targeting rich Americans. They don't have to say that. It's already a given that if you're gullible enough to buy a 3-year residency visa for 500,000 euros, you must have money. Get this. Just the application and issuance fees for a couple for the golden visa costs over 25,000 euros. I mean, we can get a permanent residency visa in a country that is not being promoted for less than the application and issuance fees of the golden visas in one of these European countries. Italy's golden visa, or dulce visa, looks similar to Portugal's. Italy wants rich Americans and Brits to invest $2 million in government bonds or 500,000 euros in corporate bonds. The minimum to invest in Italy is 250,000 euros or about 274,000 USD dollars at the time of this video. This gives you a 2-year permanent residency in Italy, and after the 2 years is up, you get to renew for 3 more years. For those who move to Italy, many find some finer points about the Italian culture not to their liking and end up leaving. So why do Americans leave Italy? Americans may find certain cultural differences challenging. Oh yeah? Additionally, some Americans might feel frustrated by language barriers and the lack of certain conveniences they are used to at home. Really? Who'd have thought? We like Giorgia Meloni, but Italy does have a few issues they need to take care of, and this is a list of just some of the things that Americans say they don't like about Italy. We've talked about several of these things in our videos about Italy in the past. Europe is the place people escape from, but leave it to current internet frenzy to turn lemons into limonada. Italy faces several challenges, including a stagnating economy, high unemployment rates, particularly among youth, and significant issues related to corruption and organized crime. Additionally, there are ongoing concerns about gender-based violence, discrimination, and inadequate access to essential services like healthcare and education. Italy taxes Americans' pensions, stocks and bonds investments, cryptos, IRAs, and more between 23 and 43% if they have registered as a resident in their country, and is one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to live there. Vacation? Yes. Permanent residency? Probably not. Italy is run by charlatans, and most Italians know that. It's only the foreigners that don't know that. And if it wasn't for Giorgia Meloni, it would already have disappeared off the map. Pray for its people. Moving on to number 5, France. France, like Panama and Costa Rica, has been overly promoted and the prices have spiked considerably. Many Americans leave France because they cannot adapt to the culture. Americans leave France for various reasons, including personal preferences, job opportunities back in the U.S., or challenges related to adapting to life in a different culture. Additionally, political or economic factors can influence their decision to return home. So what's wrong with France? It seems they're always having a huge political uprising over there. France is currently facing significant political turmoil, including government collapse and increasing polarization among political parties. Additionally, issues such as systemic racism, high unemployment rates, and social unrest are contributing to a challenging environment for many citizens. France has never been a country to move to, thanks to their long-standing socialist policies. But visiting used to be something to consider. How things have changed. Meanwhile, America is restoring its collapsed government. Maybe France should do the same. Number 4, Dominican Republic. The DR has many things that could entice people to move there, especially the great weather and beautiful beaches, but many people find the country to not be what they expected and they return home. The DR has been promoted as cheapest Caribbean for years and interestingly remained cheapest Caribbean for decades. The promotion and over-tourism has left its scars, however. Expats often leave the Dominican Republic due to issues like government inefficiencies, high utility costs, and feelings of being taken advantage of by local businesses. Additionally, many miss the cultural amenities and face challenges such as racism and a lack of stability in the economy. We should all see now that an environment of over-tourism eventually breeds contempt from the locals, and the DR has numerous tourist and expat scams, and anyone who is not really aware of their surroundings and how these scams work will be affected. Many different types of scams, from taxi scams, hotel scams, dating scams, you name it. The DR is not a good country for first-timers. When the scams get well known by the foreigners, the Dominicans come up with new ones to get your money. Some way, somehow. The likelihood of getting scammed in the Dominican Republic is quite prevalent, as expats all over the internet and forums are complaining they got scammed in the DR. That's why it is in our top 10 worst countries to move to. The Dominican Republic has many tourist scams, primarily due to its popularity as a travel destination, which attracts both legitimate businesses and opportunistic scammers looking to exploit visitors. Common scams include overpricing, fake entry portals, and misleading taxi fares, often targeting tourists who may not be familiar with local prices and customs. Number 3, Brazil. Brazil has some of the highest crime rates in Latin America. That, just in itself, would discourage us from moving there. Brazil has one of the highest crime rates in the world, with a homicide rate of 21.26 per 100,000 inhabitants reported in 2021. Despite a recent decline in murder rates, many Brazilians still feel unsafe due to other forms of violence and crime, such as street robberies and drug-related incidents. Why do Americans end up leaving Brazil? Many Americans leave Brazil due to various factors such as economic challenges, safety concerns, and the desire for better job opportunities or quality of life in the United States. Additionally, some may find it difficult to adapt to cultural differences or face issues related to bureaucracy. Same story we hear over and over from expats, just a different country. Moving on to number 2, Portugal. I do not like countries that exploit foreigners for their greedy residency schemes. It seems there are usually a future consequence and or change of law that is disastrous for the foreigner. The residency investment schemes of Europe and gentrification go together like bread and butter. It's a hook to hook you in to buy their property, and now look what they're entertaining, a 100% property tax on foreign-owned homes. I think there's going to be some pretty upset expats. What do you think? But putting that aside now, Portugal did away with the buying a property residency scheme too because of all the consequences of the foreigner bombardment, which is also happening in Spain. It appears that Portugal is attempting to remake itself with a new golden visa, with several different investment options. And here they are. Just look at them. Fund a subscription. Make a contribution to Portuguese investment funds. Investment or donation in the arts or reconstruction of national cultural heritage. A donation of at least 250,000 euros. Scientific research. Creation of 10 jobs. Share capital and job creation. But the least amount that you can invest is $250,000 or euros, which is about 270 USD. And here is how much the golden visa will set you back, and you get a whopping 5-year residency before your golden visa expires, and then you get to renew it again for another 5 years. We're just shaking our heads. We do a lot of that. For a single applicant, it's going to cost you a whopping $12,696 just for the application fees and the issuance fees. And then for a couple, it's $25,400. The Portuguese government is raking in the bucks from foreigners just on the fees for their golden visas. Understand, this is on top of the $250,000 euro donation to either the culture, sciences, arts, or private equity funds. It appears to be the same scheme, just exchange the property purchase requirement with other things. Look, Portugal, Spain, Italy, and France, sure, they're very nice countries to look at. The old colonial and Romanesque architecture is a sight for sore eyes. It is postcard pretty, but that doesn't mean you should move there, does it? Why do Americans leave Portugal anyway? Many Americans leave Portugal due to challenges such as language barriers, limited job opportunities, and difficulties integrating into the local culture. Additionally, some may return to the U.S. for better healthcare access and educational options for their children. Yawn. Next. Do you notice how cultural differences are always in the list of reasons why foreigners leave? It makes you wonder why other people don't just learn from that and just start taking vacations instead. The unabashed greed on their golden visas and the fact that this country is so overrated and overvalued now is why it's on our top 10 worst countries to live in the world. Vacation? Maybe. Live there permanently? Nope. And moving on to our number 1 worst country to live in the world. Number 1, Spain. There are some things that seem much planned out with Spain that doesn't look good for them. Most people don't notice these things because they're all giddy about moving to Spain, but we're on the outside looking in, while you're already in the Spain box before you go. So we're your unbiased look into the future. Telling rich Americans and Brits to hurry up and buy their golden visa before it expires in 2025 and then taxing foreign-owned properties 100% is very strange. If foreigners are really causing so much havoc and chaos to the housing market in Spain, why on earth are they telling people last chance to get on the property action before the golden visa expires on April 3rd, 2025? They're making lots of money from the foreigners, you know. The minimum amount to buy one of their cement buildings is $500,000. As we stated in our previous video, Americans are rushing to Spain to get the golden visa before it expires. And many Americans are moving to Spain quickly to secure residency through the Golden Visa program, which allows residency via real estate investment. This program is set to end on April 3rd, 2025, prompting a surge in applications and property purchases by U.S. citizens. And listen to this. Spain is planning to impose a tax of up to 100% on properties bought by non-EU residents as part of the measures to address the country's housing crisis. This unprecedented move aims to prioritize housing availability for residents and curb speculation by foreign investors. I'm shaking my head. Nothing else needs to be said here. We shared details about this in our last video, so we won't reiterate it again. If you haven't seen that video, the link will be at the end of this video. And some Americans are leaving Europe and moving back to the USA. Many Americans leave Europe for various reasons, including job opportunities back in the US, family commitments, or dissatisfaction with the local lifestyle. Some may also find it challenging to adapt to the cultural differences or bureaucratic processes in European countries. Yawn. Those are our top 10 worst countries to live in the world at this time. The truth is, any countries that are getting heavily promoted over and over again and puffed up like these 10 countries are the countries you do not want to move to for all the reasons many expats leave them for. So that's it for this information. Hope everyone is doing great. Stay safe and be blessed. Bye-bye.